In the far reaches of the world, beyond the known lands of men, there lay a forgotten kingdom named Elysia. It was a place of beauty, hidden in a valley surrounded by towering mountains and dense forests. For centuries, Elysia had thrived, untouched by war or famine, protected by its natural barriers and the magic that flowed through its land. The people of Elysia were content, living simple lives in harmony with nature and one another. But the peace of Elysia was not without its price, for the kingdom was guarded by an ancient being, a creature of immense power known as the Guardian. The Guardian was a being of stone and magic, a towering figure that stood watch over Elysia from the highest peak of the mountains. It had been created by the first king of Elysia, a powerful sorcerer who had bound the Guardian to the land to protect it from any who might seek to harm it. The Guardian was both feared and revered by the people of Elysia, for it was said that as long as the Guardian stood watch, no harm could come to the kingdom. But it was also said that if the Guardian were ever to fall, Elysia would fall with it. For centuries, the Guardian remained vigilant, and Elysia prospered. But as the years passed, the people of Elysia began to forget the old stories, and the Guardian became little more than a legend, a tale told to children to keep them from wandering too far from home. The kingdom grew complacent, and the people no longer feared the dangers that lay beyond their borders. It was in this time of peace and forgetfulness that a great darkness began to stir in the lands beyond Elysia. A powerful warlord named Kael had risen to power, uniting the tribes and kingdoms of the north under his banner. Kael was a man of ambition and cruelty, and he sought to conquer all the lands of the world, bringing them under his rule. He had heard of Elysia, the hidden kingdom of peace and prosperity, and he coveted it for his own. Kael gathered his armies and set out for Elysia, determined to claim the kingdom and its riches. He knew of the Guardian and the ancient magic that protected the land, but he did not fear it. He was a man of great power, and he believed that no force, magical or otherwise, could stand in his way. The people of Elysia were unaware of the approaching danger. They went about their lives as they always had, tending to their farms and families, unaware that the peace they had known for so long was about to be shattered. But the Guardian knew. It had sensed the darkness approaching, and it stood ready to defend the kingdom as it had done for centuries. The creature's eyes, carved from precious gems, glowed with a fierce light as it watched the distant horizon. The time had come once again for the Guardian to fulfill its purpose. As Kael's army drew closer to the borders of Elysia, the sky darkened, and a great storm began to brew over the mountains. Lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled through the valley, as the Guardian summoned the full force of its power. The ground trembled beneath its feet, and the air crackled with energy. Kael's soldiers hesitated as they approached the mountains, fear creeping into their hearts. They had heard the stories of the Guardian, and now they saw that the tales were true. But Kael would not be deterred. He raised his sword high and shouted to his men, rallying them to press on. They had come too far to turn back now. The battle that followed was fierce and terrible. The Guardian unleashed its fury upon the invaders, hurling bolts of lightning and boulders from the mountainside. The very earth seemed to rise up against Kael's army, swallowing men and machines in great chasms that opened beneath their feet. The soldiers fought bravely, but they were no match for the ancient power that protected Elysia. But Kael was not a man easily defeated. He had brought with him powerful sorcerers, men who had dabbled in dark and forbidden magic. Together, they cast a spell of binding, seeking to trap the Guardian in chains of shadow. The Guardian fought against the spell, its stone form cracking and splintering as it struggled to break free. But the sorcerer's magic was strong, and slowly the Guardian began to weaken. As the battle raged on, a young woman named Lyra watched from the safety of her village. She had always been different from the other people of Elysia, gifted with a strange and powerful magic that she did not fully understand. She had been shunned by her neighbors, feared for her abilities, and she had lived a lonely life on the outskirts of the village. But as she watched the Guardians struggle against the invaders, something stirred within her. She could feel the magic of the land, the same magic that flowed through her veins, calling out to her. It was a desperate, pleading cry, and she knew that she could not ignore it. Without hesitation, Lyra left her home and set out for the mountains. She climbed the steep and treacherous path to the peak where the Guardian stood, her heart pounding in her chest. She did not know what she would do when she reached the top, but she knew that she had to try. The fate of Elysia depended on it. When Lyra reached the summit, she found the Guardian bound in chains of shadow, its once mighty form crumbling under the weight of the sorcerer's spell. Kale stood at the base of the mountain, watching with a triumphant smile as his victory seemed assured. But Lyra was not afraid. She stepped forward, her hands glowing with the same magic that had always set her apart from the others. She could feel the power of the land flowing through her, connecting her to the Guardian and to Elysia itself. With a shout, she unleashed her magic, sending a wave of energy crashing into the sorcerer's spell. The chains of shadow shattered, and the Guardian roared as it broke free from its bonds. The storm above intensified, and the ground shook with the force of the Guardian's renewed strength. Kael's smile faltered as he realized that his victory was slipping away. He shouted to his men, ordering them to attack, but it was too late. The Guardian, now free, unleashed its full power upon the invaders. The storm raged, and the earth trembled as the Guardian struck down Kael's army with a fury that had not been seen in centuries. In the end, Kael and his men were defeated, their bodies scattered across the mountainside. The storm began to subside, and the sky cleared as the Guardian returned to its watchful vigil over Elysia. The kingdom was safe once more, and the people of Elysia rejoiced. But the victory had come at a cost. The Guardian, weakened by the battle, began to crumble, its stone form breaking apart as the magic that had sustained it for so long began to fade. Lyra watched in sorrow as the great creature that had protected her kingdom for centuries slowly collapsed into a pile of rubble. But the magic of Elysia was not gone. It still flowed through the land and through Lyra herself. She knelt beside the remains of the Guardian, her hands glowing with the same light that had saved the kingdom. She knew that the time had come for a new Guardian to rise. Drawing upon the magic of the land, Lyra began to weave a new spell, one that would bind the power of Elysia to her and to the kingdom. The ground beneath her shifted and trembled as the spell took shape. And slowly, a new Guardian began to rise from the earth. This Guardian was different from the one that had come before. It was smaller, more agile, and its form was not made of stone, but of living wood and vines. It was a part of the land itself, connected to Elysia in a way that the old Guardian had never been. When the spell was complete, Lyra stood before the new Guardian, her heart filled with hope and determination. She knew that the kingdom would face new challenges in the years to come. But she also knew that Elysia would endure. The magic of the land was strong, and as long as the Guardian stood watch, the kingdom would be safe. And so, Lyra became the new Guardian of Elysia, a protector of the land and its people. She watched over the kingdom from her place in the mountains, ensuring that no harm would come to the land she loved. The people of Elysia came to see her not as an outcast, but as a hero, and they honored her for the sacrifices she had made to keep them safe. As the years passed, the story of Lyra and the Guardian of Elysia became legend, a tale of courage, sacrifice, and the enduring power of magic. And though the world changed and the old ways were forgotten, the people of Elysia never forgot the Guardian who had saved them from the darkness, and they continued to live in peace, protected by the magic of the land and the spirit of the Guardian that watched over them.